original piece. The exhibited blue and red accents are artistic adaptations of political parties and are reaching towards reconciliation. Through these historical changes, we have progressed. In New York City, we are moving to reach for reconciliation of differences and join together in peace and love, creating more unity within the community. Guys, I've decided I'm going to do something a tad different with this presentation. I want to make sure that I am able to get, I think some of you may be seeing a little blocked window in the upper right. So let me see if I can't fix that. Hold on just a second. Well, I cannot seem to find the box that allows me to delete that little square. So we will soldier on and, there it is. I think I got it. I got it. Okay, we're gonna take that out of the way. That means I cannot see any chat questions, which you shouldn't be sending me because I'm gonna just go through this. So let me just pick back up here with the House of Barton. There we go. I want to make sure everybody can see everything. So this is the House of Barton reconciling the city. Next up, and here's their statement, is the House of Bonhoeffer, and our creatives listed as well. Bonhoeffer's statement. This is a celebration of political reconciliation. This is a recontextualization of Picasso's celebration of peace and reconciliation, and the work displays a political reconciliation in our contemporary society. We have chosen to reimagine the artistic theme from Picasso's original etching in order to provide insight on modern America. Our etching portrays politicians of opposing worldviews sharing a healing moment of laughter and fellowship as they begin the process of reconciliation. Depicted in the artwork, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Mike Pence. The absurdity of the artwork reveals the lack of true reconciliation in our contemporary society. America has strayed from this biblical principle. Our leaders are a showcase of such a departure. The House of Churchill. I am a man. Finished at the inception of the civil rights movement in 1954, Salvador Dali's Corpus Hypercubus depicts Christ as sovereign and powerful, even amidst the suffering inflicted upon him on the cross. We recontextualize this powerful image of Christ's reconciliation with our sin into our peace. The, quote, "I am a man," end quote sign upheld by the protesters appeals to their humanity amidst the suffering that our nation inflicted on them. Dali's cubist use of the tesseract was replaced with a singular rectangular "I am a man" sign. These posters descend from the cross, signifying each individual's endowment with the likeness of their creator. The essence of the civil rights movement continues today as police brutality and violent crime towards people of color continues. Christ's reconciliation with our sin on the cross restored our relationship with God. Our nation must restore our relationships with each other by reconciling our sins of racial injustice. House of Lewis. God dines with Abraham. Jesus breaks bread with the disciples. Jesus eats with the tax collectors and sinners. The Bible is full of stories of God encountering man through sharing food. We believe this particular action isn't by chance. There is something inherent about sharing a meal which brings people together. Rather than Pablo Picasso's depiction of a hedonistic proletariat feast, we envision a potluck which brings together nations, sexes, races, the rich and the poor, the young and the old, all the families of the earth. Food is the most necessary human need. We believe sharing food with someone is a holy experience. The early church established a tradition of the Eucharist as a meal which followed a communal gathering. We envision a potluck, not a soup line, where everyone brings what they can, dining in an equal setting, restoring community, justice, and peace. This is my body broken for you. The House of Queen Elizabeth I. This piece recontextualizes the works of Salvador Dali and Josefina de Vasconcelos. It borrows the embracing male and female figures from de Vasconcelos' Reconciliation, as well as themes of personal reconciliation and overcoming hopelessness through finding strength in refuge in others, portrayed through the crying male figure. The fog surrounding the figures represents the necessity to mutually let go of one's own resentment of another's mistakes and flaws in order to pursue reconciliation. The cross behind the figures recontextualizes the hypercube in Dali's crucifixion by drawing on its symbolism of the omniscience of God, as well as conveying the need for grace in the biblical definition of justice that mirrors the grace that he shows us. Galatians 6:2 commands, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. This piece embodies bearing each other's burdens as an important step toward reconciliation. The House of Reagan. Nobody embodies reconciliation more than the Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ. In Salvador Dali's crucifixion, he portrays the sins of humanity nailed to a tree made of chessboards. In the House of Reagan's interpretation of this great work, we have embodied the sins of New York as an example of the internal conflict between good and evil in American culture. As a capital of the modern world, New York serves as a beacon of liberty and hope. If we have a chance at reconciliation, we must first acknowledge that our own trespasses nailed Christ to the tree and ask for forgiveness. If we do not acknowledge our own sin, who will? The House of Susan B. Anthony. Reconciliation often looks like two parties celebrating a desired ending and a new beginning. But what does reconciliation look like when there is not yet an agreed upon resolution? Illustrated through man and woman's hands in this piece, the intimacy of Vasconcellos' statue and the desire depicted by Picasso's reaching hands are in tension. Wrapped around Dali's chessboard, the hands reach for their opposite desire as they play their scale of justice. The scales are incomplete, unbalanced, and will remain so until reconciliation is reached by the players. While there is not yet an agreed upon end, they know they must play strategically together in order to find justice and reconciliation. So they hold hands as they work towards unity. The sense of togetherness in the midst of opposition and the symbolic cross hidden in the unbalanced scale hint at an overarching sense of complete unity to come. The House of Ten Boom. Untidy Reunion. Untidy Reunion explores the nature of reconciliation by attending to the particular reconciliation of different styles and perspectives, of harsh, colorless lines with soft, vivid gradients, of anger, sadness, and fear with peace, joy, and valor, the values of the House of Corrie ten Boom. 14 House members contributed drawings of their unique associations with pain and joy. A reconciler of the two, beauty is represented by a sunrise and a divine mediator. Reunion expresses this beauty. Many House members drew community to convey joy. And like Untidy Reunion itself, the beauty of reconciliation is often a bit chaotic. Untidy Reunion pulls color and texture from The Reconciliation of Esau and Jacob by Peter Paul Rubens. Like Celebration of Peace and Reconciliation by Picasso, Untidy Reunion depicts community through connected figures and continuous lines. Both the cross and the surrealist atmosphere are borrowed from Salvador Dali's The Crucifixion. The House of Thatcher. The top of Pablo Picasso's Celebration of Peace and Reconciliation depicts multiple hands reaching for a chalice together at a feast of unity as a demonstration of reconciliation. Feasting and drinking together are not only symbolic of community in Picasso's piece, but both of these actions demonstrate a universal theme throughout the entire timeline of historic culture and literature. Our piece brings together different symbolic elements of peace and reconciliation with Picasso's simple etching as the foundation. The contemporary phrase, "come to the table," invites contrasting colored hands to rise and reach for a golden chalice overflowing with wine, solidifying between them a bond through communion. The chalice is filled with feathers of freedom and trust, lilies of peace and olives of agreement. The table is set and the guests are now unified. The house of truth. Dream for a nation divided. Our piece is a recontextualization of Jacob and Esau's story, paralleling the racial divisions plaguing our country and history. Despite the ever-flowing stream of opposition, there exists another stream, one of reconciliation, even in the emptiest of places. The barren background represents an enduring past, but the fertile foreground asks how to bear good fruit in the future. As Jacob, shrouded in America's racially violent history, clutches Esau's hands, the seeds of justice fall on fertile ground. Esau, draped in images of peaceful reconciliation, graciously receives Jacob. The two brothers' unification envisions a future for America. The year 2020 has furthered the pursuit of racial justice, but there is still much work to do. Though growth is a constant process, the unification of God's people as brothers is what will sow the seeds. Like a river, the flow of justice takes time, but reconciliation will help it burst forth like a mighty flood. And that, my friends, is your 10 pieces of digital art for the competition. So at this point, I would really like to have you all ask questions. Now, I'm not going to be able to answer specific questions about how something was created or what something means because I wasn't part of the creative process. But I'm going to assume that many of the creators are here in this room. So if you have a question about what something means or how something was created, feel free to ask that. And then I would simply ask that if you're one of the creators to identify yourself either through the chat to me, and I can unmute you and you can answer the question. Or if I believe if you're in the city room, you can then go to one of the mics. So that's going to be a way for you guys. And I don't even know who's in the city room or what that looks like. All I know is we have 105 participants. So take a minute, think about what you saw. If you just want to share your thoughts about just the general themes that regularly popped up or the works that were used as the sort of the foundation for the new works, please feel free to do that. Shoot me a chat or go to the mic in the city room. While you're thinking about those things, you know, when I've never really been privy to the process of selecting, that's not true. I did help select one theme one year, one of the second or third interregnums a long time ago, but it's much more advanced now. It's much more systematized in terms of, you know, how we run these things, the committees coming up with a theme and then the attendant readings. But who would have known when this theme was selected that we would live the 2020 that we're living? when the issue of reconciliation is so incredibly central to this whole year that we've been living. Virus pandemic aside, you know, the election, the racial issues that have come up this summer, it's clear that reconciliation is desperately needed for our nation and for the world, for us individually as well, with our neighbors, with our brothers and sisters. So kudos to the prophetic the prophetic choice of reconciliation for our theme this year. So again, that timing is just seems providential. And once again, I think you would all agree with me that these are all excellent works. Yeah, there was thought put into these, building off of the original 5 that were released as jumping off spots or points. And again, I'm not, you know, you know, the fact that you can film a movie on your phone, you can even, you know, create digital art on your phone is just, it's beyond me. I don't get it. I'm just not good for that. All right, so yes, the chat is now open. We had to do some finagling. So yes, ask me a question or ask us a question or share your thoughts. All right, now they're all coming in. Okay. Comment here is, I can't remember whose it was, but using Rubens and Picasso feels almost like a reconciliation of styles too, which maybe wasn't intentional, but is totally cool either way. That's a good catch. That's a great catch. And I am not aware of the pieces enough to, oh goodness. Yeah, there's no way I can zip through this. If somebody knows what piece is being referred to here, shoot me the house name and I will do that. Maybe Ten Boom. Let me make some more space here. This. Yes, it's Ten Boom. Ten Boom. That's the good catch there. Yeah, reconciliation of artistic styles and technique. I like that. All right, so let me go back. Got that one. Yeah, so I have a question about the process for choosing the original works that the digital art was based off of. Would somebody from the committee like to pipe in, unmic themselves or unmute themselves? Don't want to put anyone on the spot, but just, I vaguely remember how this played out, but since it's not my committee, I don't want to misspeak.
Okay, we're coming. We're trying
Okay.
to answer this question best.
Yeah, I think Catherine would be a better answerer of this question, but we tried to find, obviously, pieces that dealt subject matter-wise with reconciliation. What? Oh, I didn't want to be on video. This is really unnecessary. We tried to look for pieces that were focused on, obviously, the topic of reconciliation in their subject matter, but also finding that idea traced throughout history. That's kind of the idea. So looking at the same idea, but mediated through different art styles, and then being able to take those art styles and that idea and import it into our modern era. So obviously credit to Catherine and to you, Dr. Bleeler, for helping with that. But yeah, I think that's the idea for the committee.
All right. So you can either blame me or thank me. I guess it depends on what you think of the 5. So I was asked which of the original 5 pieces were your favorite. Was my favorite and why? It's probably going to be the Rubens, the reconciliation of Jacob and Esau. because you know, Titian and Rubens are my favorite old masters. Usually it's because of their use of color. That's a default answer there. So I'll go with that. I also love that Salvador Dali crucifixion painting. I just think it's stunning. He's done a couple of those, the variations on that sort of that sort of cube cross. And I think the Met has one of them in their collection as well, but I find that to be incredibly powerful. Dali has a whole sort of string of these very Christ-centered, Eucharist, Last Supper-centered paintings, crucifixion, that he produced. So it was certainly something that he was working on. All right, so, and I'm assuming, I can't tell if you guys can still see everything on my screen. If you are, then you see my questions coming up. So a question is asked, somebody would like to discuss a little further exactly what we are reconciling, especially with the inclusion of visual prompts for digital art. I'd love to hear specific takes on what aspect of life we are reconciling. Anybody want to take a stab at that? What are we reconciling? Anyone? Bueller? Well, I can take a stab at it. Well, I think there's reconciliation on all kinds of levels. Like, you know, of course, probably the most central one is between ourselves and our creator. You know, reconciliation with others is only going to do so much if we're not reconciled with our God. I mean, it's still good and it can be helpful, but you know, it really is through Christ that we find true reconciliation. And I think you can, you know, really look at this in terms of how it affects first the individual, then your family. You know, we all have conflicts in our families, and reconciliation through Christ is the only thing that's going to bring real healing and growth in a good, positive way. Then taking out further, you know, outside of the immediate family, there's, you know, church. You know, churches are full of all kinds of hurts and pains. And I know that we all probably have stories that we could share about how people in the church hurt us, even pastors, leadership. But then you start moving further out, you get into your sort of local community, all the way up to your nation and the world itself. And so, you know, because we live in a fallen world, we're always going to have to be in, we're always going to have to be in a place of reconciling. We just, you know, that's the only way we're going to get through that. So that's kind of my take on it. I guess we could get very specific. But a follow-up is that she was, this was a question from Tia, that she's thinking specifically of what SBA was really working at towards in their piece. So would somebody from SBA like to jump in and talk about that? Any brave soul from SBA? I think we've got somebody coming from SBA.
from the city room, I'm giving them power to chat. So they're about to join.
Okay, we're ready when you are, SBA. SBA, anyone there? Samantha?
I think they're trying to get a video up, they said.
Oh, a video. Oh, fancy.
I think what they meant was that they're gonna try to like upload a video expanding on that later. Correct me if that's wrong. That's what I read that as.
All right. I'm trying to.
Oh, there they are, there they are.
There they are.
Okay. Sam, are you there?
Question one more time so I can make sure I answer it fully.
Sure. Let me go back to that. Hold on a second. So Tia asks, I'd love for us to discuss a little further exactly what we're reconciling, especially with the inclusion of the visual prompts for the digital art. I'd love to hear specific takes on what aspects of life we're reconciling. And she's more directing that to the SBA work.
Yeah, so one thing that we were kind of thinking about when we were creating our piece and looking at the other pieces of art was that in most of the pieces, there a sense of reconciliation had been achieved. There was a lot of reconciliation between different parties, and you can see that through the representation of like hands being held. A common end had been met, like sharing a meal, this kind of thing. So what does reconciliation look like though when we're not to that point, when we're working towards reconciliation? And then also we kind of were trying to think about what does reconciliation look like horizontally and vertically? So like, what does it look like between one another, between humans, but then also what does it look like to be reconciled with God, with something higher? So with what we were kind of thinking about is that reconciliation kind of, in a lot of these pieces, like you could just see the outcome, but we were trying to depict something where the outcome hasn't been reached yet. But there's this want and this need for reconciliation and this desire to have this connection to one another, to humanity, but then a desire to have like a connection to something higher, to Christ, and also just like with the theme of justice, like to also have a common view or come to an understanding of what it looks like to achieve justice. So we kind of wanted our piece to be somewhere in between, something where reconciliation is the goal, but maybe we're not quite there yet. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yes, very good. That was very helpful. And it was an interesting take, SBA, to focus on the process rather than the outcome, which would probably be the one that most of us would gravitate towards. Okay. All right, now, okay, I'm going to stop share. I have to jump back and forth here to be able to see all this. So I'm working. So we have a question in the city room.
This is Harrison speaking. I was wondering, I don't mean to put you totally on the spot, but what do you think you would have done if tasked with this prompt, with these 5 pieces? The answer, I mean, we had a lot more time to think about it, obviously.
Right. Well, I'm a much better critic than I am a creator. So I maybe I'd come up with an idea. And, I was consulted about some recommendations for works. And yes, I recommended the Rubens piece. So I'll admit it. So I would probably want to do something with that because I find that to be a really powerful story.
Which piece was that again?
The Reuben's reconciliation of Jacob and Esau.
Oh, right, awesome.
Yeah, I just love that story. Jacob's a wily one, and it doesn't always make sense why he's God's favorite. I don't always get that. But the reconciliation that takes place later after the harm and the damage has been done in the relationship is always very moving to me. Another one that I can't remember if I suggested it or not, but it's one of Rembrandt's most famous. It's The Prodigal Son, with the son sort of on his knees in front of his father and his father sort of embracing him. It's one of Rembrandt's most famous. So I'm kind of drawn to the old masters, and so I would probably want to come up with an idea that sort of worked in that. But then I would also be at the mercy of my team that had the creative ability to put something, to create something. So I don't know that we could necessarily, create an old masters looking response, but I need a little more time to think of what I would want to do. But those are the kind of works that I'd want to play around with. That's part of the reason reasons I like the old masters so much is because the history Bible paintings are just so magnificent, and so full of emotion. So thanks for the question.
Thank you.
All right. So somebody's asking about the House of Reagan to expand on their artwork, that there was a lot of meaning to it and that the student felt the Holy Spirit touch them with that particular work. So somebody from the House of Reagan, you want to speak up, talk about that? I'll pull it back up.
I don't believe there is anyone on the House of Reagan on the call right now who
Okay.
feels to that, but I'll let you know if I get a notification saying that I'm wrong, and then we can let them jump on it.
All right. Let me just share it real quick, just so you all can be reminded of what's being asked about here. Yeah, it's good. Interesting way to sort of redesign the cross itself with these texts. Yeah, that again, the source material I think is it really does help with that. It's a powerful image. All right, let's see. Where are we at? Okay. Okay, somebody likes the reference to Harry Styles in the back of the Ten Boom. Nice, nice. Are any of these paintings in museums in the city? Well, like I said, I don't think that particular Dali is in the city, but there is a variation of it in the Met's modern collection. The other pieces I don't recall. And just so you guys know, because you basically were, you got reference to them. There's Rubens' Reconciliation of Esau and Jacob, Picasso's Celebration of Peace and Reconciliation, Dali's Crucifixion, and we had one, it was Woodruff's, the building of the slavery library that was not used, about 1942, American regional work. That, I don't know where that is. That could possibly be here in New York. And then Josefina de Vasconcelos' Reconciliation Statue, which was originally named Reunion. So those were the 5 pieces. Yeah. So at least the Dali version of it is in the city here, if you want to check that out. So yeah, I answered that. I think we're figuring out. Yeah, somebody's asking if we could see the works once more. Yeah, we can do that. And then there's a question, can these be displayed at the school in any way? I guess that's something the Interregnum Committee could respond to. Yeah, it would be nice if we were able to print these out at a reasonable size and hang them up. But I will pull up the presentation again, and we'll go through it and give the interregnum committee some time to think about the answer to that. Is there a way to show these on campus? And like I said, I'm willing to hand over this presentation for anyone to use it to check things out. So it's all yours. So here, let's take a look once more.
As a side note from the committee, we will also have all of this art up on our website at the end of this call. So once we get off, you'll all be able to look at it at your leisure at tkcinterregnum.com.
And the committee, note that I can either I can give you this presentation, or if there's access, if I have access to it in Schoology, I know there's a Schoology I guess class set up for people to get and to drop things off. I'm happy to upload this or give it to you guys to put on there in case anybody ever wants to look at it. So that's.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. I'm going to go through them. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let you look at these in peace and quiet. All right. I think that's it for the questions. Any last minute questions for from you guys? Again, terrific work. I'm just always so proud of what you all pull off every year. I didn't quite get to the first work description. Oh, were you taking screenshots? All right, let me get that up here for you real quick. All right, there's your screenshot. All right. So the interregnum committee, the link for online students to get credit for the art viewing. So there's your link. It's in the chat. You are welcome, House of SBA. Anything from the interregnum committee as we wrap this up?
No, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Dr. Wheeler, for doing this. I know everyone in the city room has had a great time watching, and I'm
Good.
sure all of you have the same.
Well, I think this is something we could, I mean, I know part of what we're doing is adjusting to COVID situation, but I kind of like this, this idea of creating a presentation with these works, because I know that sometimes we don't get a chance to look at these things more closely because it happens quickly. So something to keep in mind for the future. So again, I'm happy to help. So I will, in a interregnum committee, I'll email you this presentation in just a moment. And unless there's anything else, we are dismissed. Yes?
Yeah, we should be all good. Thank you, everyone
All right.
who's watching, and we can't wait to see you later tonight.